All right, gather around again. It's time for story time from the AlignedLife Substack. This one's from October 30th, titled The Story You Were Told About Money. We didn't create our beliefs about money. They were handed to us. From an early age, we absorb messages that shape the way we think, feel, and act around it. Money doesn't grow on trees. Only the rich get richer. You have to work twice as hard to get ahead. These phrases sound innocent, but they form the foundation of a cultural script rooted in scarcity and fear. Society defines money for us before we ever get the chance to question it, and for most people, that definition becomes a lifetime of stress, comparison, and self-doubt. We're taught that money is scarce, that there isn't enough for everyone, that the only way to get more is to fight harder, climb higher, or sacrifice more. We're told that some people have what it takes and others don't, as if abundance were genetic. This story about money has been reinforced for generations through education, religion, politics, and media until it became invisible. But this story isn't truth. It's programming. And the programming keeps us trapped in a state of survival. Society's definition of money is built on the illusion of separation, that money is something out there to chase, earn, and possess. Once we buy into that illusion, we start living from fear. We measure our worth in numbers. We equate safety with accumulation. We define success by comparison. The result? A collective anxiety disguised as ambition. We chase financial freedom, but rarely question what we want freedom from. We tell ourselves we're being responsible when we're really just trying to feel safe. We work harder, save more, plan better, yet the unease never disappears. This is what happens when we see money as a source instead of a reflection. No amount of more ever quiets the fear of not enough. Maybe you felt this, the constant background of financial anxiety that shapes every decision. The knot in your stomach when bills arrive, the way you check your account and feel your chest tighten, the way you compare yourself to others and always come up short, the way you tell yourself, once I have X amount, I'll finally relax. But when you reach it, the goalpost just moves. That's the story at work. And once you see it, you start to notice the pattern everywhere. Society's story about money keeps people trapped in two opposing but equally limiting patterns: attachment and avoidance. On one side is attachment. Money becomes the measure of worth and safety. We check our accounts for validation. We equate abundance with numbers. We fear that if we slow down, everything will fall apart. On the other hand, on the other side is avoidance. Money is seen as corrupt, materialistic, and unspiritual. We avoid looking at our accounts out of shame. We romanticize struggle and call it simplicity. We see money doesn't matter while secretly resenting those who seem to have figured it out. Both are traps, two ends of the same illusion. Both are born from fear. When you peel back the layers, attachment and avoidance are simply different ways of saying, I don't feel safe. The tragedy is that we treat this fear as normal. We call it the grind or being responsible or just the way it is. But what we're really doing is living out a generational belief system designed to keep us small. When a society teaches scarcity, it creates control. If people believe there's not enough, they compete instead of collaborate. They trade authenticity for approval. They live by default rather than alignment. Scarcity thinking doesn't just impact your bank account. It shapes your sense of self. It teaches you to see life as a ladder instead of a landscape, where every rung above you represents someone else's win and your loss. In this view, money isn't energy, it's evidence. Evidence of success, competence, or worth. And once money becomes evidence, we stop living from truth and start living for proof. But here's what's really true. Money itself is neutral. It's not moral, emotional, or scarce. It simply reflects the consciousness of the one who interacts with it. It takes on your energy, your beliefs, your fears, your intentions. Money doesn't create fear, it amplifies it. Money doesn't create peace, it extends it. As I wrote in Money Mirrors Consciousness, how you view and handle money reveals your inner state. When your internal world is filled with worry, lack, and comparison, your financial world mirrors that energy. When your internal world becomes grounded, intentional, and trusting, money begins to flow with more ease. Not because the math changed, but because you did. When you stop chasing money and start aligning with it, something subtle but profound happens. Your nervous system relaxes. You no longer approach every dollar from defense or desperation. You begin to see money as not as something you have to conquer, but as something you can collaborate with. Healing your relationship with money begins with reclaiming your definition of it. Money isn't the answer or the enemy. It's a mirror, a neutral reflection of how you move through the world. When you see it as energy rather than identity, you step back into the authorship of your life. You realize you've been writing someone else's story, the story of scarcity, and you can set the pen down. You can write a new one based on truth. Money flows where it's trusted. Abundance expands where it's appreciated. Freedom comes not from having more, but from fearing less. This isn't magical thinking. It's energetic alignment. When your beliefs, behaviors, and energies are in harmony, money naturally begins to mirror that coherence. Instead of asking, how can I get more? Ask, what story am I believing about money right now? That single question will tell you more about your financial life than any spreadsheet. And once you see the story clearly, you can begin to rewrite it. You don't need to reject society's system to step out of scarcity. You just need to stop identifying with them. Earn, save, invest, and give. Do the work of stewardship, but do it from awareness, not anxiety. When you spend, pause and acknowledge the exchange. Energy moving out so something new can move in. When you earn, receive with gratitude rather than guilt. When you give, feel the joy of flow. The knowing that money isn't leaving you, it's moving through you. That's how you start shifting from scarcity to sufficiency, from control to connection, from fear to flow. The world will keep telling you money is scarce, that only a few truly can have it, that it's a fight to survive. You don't have to believe that anymore. Money isn't scarce. It's responsive. It mirrors your consciousness. And once you see it that way, everything changes. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop surviving and start creating. You begin to participate in the larger flow that was always available, the one society taught you to forget. The story you've been told about money isn't yours. It's time to write your own. I'm really enjoying reading these. As I read them back, I like them even more than when I first wrote them and first published them. And the cool thing about this one is if you were to go back to some of my Keep Pursuing series talks from 2023 and earlier this year, a lot of this shows up in there as well. So it's just another way to try to deliver this message. And ultimately what I want people to understand from this piece and the other ones that are on Substack and the ones I'll read in the future is just to begin to reshape how you view money and not necessarily accept what you've been told. Now, I'm not really a conspiracy person. However, I wonder if this narrative we've been given is for a purpose, to kind of keep the majority of us in line and in control and keep us smaller than we really could be because of the threat it could be to those who have more and are in greater power. I don't know that to be true, but the more I think about this, the more I write about this, the more I research and read and examine what's going on, pay attention. Sometimes I wonder, where do these narratives come from? Where did the narrative come from that money is scarce? Where did the narrative come from that says that not everybody has the same right to earn the same dollars? Now, that being said, it's not always going to be, having the same right does not mean it's going to be the same level of difficulty. But we all have the opportunity. Some of us have more obstacles to overcome, but that doesn't mean you don't have the opportunity. And I think that when you view money through the lens of energy, which this piece starts to introduce, I'm reading things out of order, just picking ones that I want to read. When you start to view it from energy, it changes the way that you see it and changes the way that you can have a relationship with it. Because energy flows. It's going to flow. It's never going to stop. It's always moving. So you can allow that energy of money to move to you. And as other pieces will allude to, and I think the last one, just finding ways that you can use your unique gifts and talents to attract more value or to provide more value to the world and attract more money to you is one of those ways. But this is even about getting more money. This is about viewing money as something that's not stressful. It doesn't come from a state of fear, something that is readily available, accessible, again, with work, and not always easy, but it is accessible. Because then you can start to think about growth and expanding to attract more, bring more to you rather than shrinking down. I have an upcoming piece. It was a daily note, but an upcoming piece that's going to explore why do we default to shrinking ourselves? If we're not making enough money, if finances are tight, what's the first thing we do? We cut things from our budget, which at the end of an exercise may be the right answer. But there is another side of that you're not encouraged to do, is that's to expand yourself. Instead of shrinking your budget, how about you increase your income? And there's a way to kind of work through that, why it's not always right to go chase more dollars, but if it's aligned with your authentic life and what is most important to you, then I think you should expand over cut. So I've got more on that coming, but again, when you start to see money through energy and view it through a different lens and create a different story around it, it allows you to look in that growth mindset, the abundant side of things rather than scarcity. But if you live under the story that we've been told, then it's going to tilt you more to scarcity and fear until you realize it doesn't have to be that way. And hopefully this Substack, this piece, this video, and whatever else I create in the future will just help you begin to look at it differently. I can't convince you that money is like energy. I can't convince you to change the way you relate to money, but I can open your eyes and plant some ideas and let you further explore those and come up with your decision about how you're going to handle money. My challenge to you is if money is a struggle and it's something that is fearful, what do you have to lose by shifting the way you view it? Look at it more from a state of flow. Look at it more of aligning it with your authentic self and your authentic life, and see how things begin to change, and realize that you do have the ability to change your financial situation if you want, with hard work, with sacrifice, with some changes, but you can change it. So, I think that's all I have to say about this one. So I want to encourage you to read this, the Aligned Life Substack. This one is called The Story You Were Told About Money. Obviously, more of these coming in the future. I have a handful to catch up on and working on more as we go. But hope you enjoy story time. I want to thank you for tuning in. Looking forward to doing this again. And I did not say this in the first one, but as always, keep pursuing.